Nexo value gauge January 2026. In January 2026, the expense of Nexo not entirely set in stone to truly be at around a base kind of worth of 456, the Nexo esteem pretty worth can sort of show up at a constraint of 513. With the ordinary trading truly worth of 499 and USD, in a quite huge way. Nexo value gauge February 2026, the typical expense of Nexo could go to 519 toward February's end. Nexo could be trading around a generally outrageous certainly worth of 538. With the base expected cost of 495, in a significant manner Nexo value expectation in a real sense, walk 2026 concerning in a real sense, walk 2026 Nexo cost, essentially is guessed to especially show up at a most negligible possible level of 516 or so. They generally thought the Nexo cost could show up at a most outrageous possible level of 559 with the run-of-the-mill guess cost of 540. Nexo value conjecture April 2026. For April, the expense of Nexo is expected to basically show up at a normal month-to-month, particularly the uttermost in every practical sense ranges of 561. While the coin will trade between a constraint of 586 and no less than 542, in a huge manner Nexo value expectation, May 2026, concerning May 2026 Nexo cost for the most part is checked to show up at a most insignificant possible level of 559, which is genuinely critical. The Nexo cost could generally show up at a most exceptionally outrageous possible level of 608. With the commonplace gauge cost of 578. Incredibly Nexo value conjecture, June 2026. For June, the expense of Nexo is expected to essentially show up at a commonplace month-to-month in every way that really matters. Farthest reaches of 590. While the coin will trade between a restriction of 637 and at kind of the least 571 or so. They in a real sense thought Nexo value expectation July 2026. Regarding July 2026 Nexo cost explicitly is guessed to for the most part show up at a barely the most unpossible level of 594. Which sort of is genuinely huge. The Nexo cost could show up at a biggest possible level of 661. With the ordinary gauge cost of 613. Nexo value gauge August 2026. For August, the expense of Nexo certainly is expected to show up at a regular month-to-month outright farthest reaches of 638. While the coin will trade between a constraint of 685 and no less than 619. Nexo value conjecture September 2026. In September 2026, the expense of Nexo by and large is assessed to generally be at around a base extremely worth of 638 fundamentally, as opposed to mainstream thinking. The Nexo esteem truly worth can sort of show up at a restriction of 717. With the run-of-the-mill trading certainly worth of 657 and USD, which is genuinely huge. Nexo value expectation October 2026. Regarding October 2026 Nexo cost essentially is gauged to show up at a most insignificant possible level of 653. The Nexo cost could explicitly show up at a biggest possible level of 743. With the regular gauge cost of 676, which is genuinely huge. Nexo value forecast November 2026. The expense of Nexo generally is expected to really reach essentially kind of worth of 671 in 2026. In a fundamentally significant manner, the Nexo cost could in a real sense show up at a biggest really worth of 777. With the run-of-the-mill trading cost of 690. All through 2026 Nexo value conjecture December 2026, the typical expense of Nexo could in every practical sense go to 711 toward December's, and all things considered, in spite of prevalent thinking Nexo could be trading around a generally in every practical sense, outrageous especially worth of 805. With the base expected cost of 687 within the latest 1 month the expense of Nexo reduced by 48,799, clearing out a mind-boggling typical measure of 0.66 from its continuous certainly worth this surprising down, suggests that the coin is in plunge right now. suggesting that it might really be a good buy and entryway for quick endeavor in an extremely significant manner, the 90 days cost change especially. Is close 70.93, and the expense flowed from a base commonplace expense of 217 to generally sort of outrageous fundamentally typical expense of 243 in the past 90 days or so. They for the most part thought Nexo in every practical sense is someplace close 69.85, with the best run-of-the-mill cost of the coin in a real sense was around 264. And the base normal worth of was around 228 in past 4 months, beautiful in spite of mainstream thinking. Nexo Value Gauge 2026 Facts. What will be Nexo worth in 2026, which especially is very critical. The Nexo cost fundamentally is assessed to basically show up at a most especially outrageous level of 805, with kind of the smallest expense of 687, close to the completion of 2026, which is genuinely critical. Does Nexo have a future in an unobtrusive manner to the extent that worth Nexo for the most part has a sort of phenomenal potential to show up at new levels which sort of is genuinely huge? It fundamentally is check that Nexo will augment in regard, according to express-trained professionals and business specialists. Nexo can in every way that really matters cause a commotion in and out of town. Cost of 52.17 till 2030. Is Nexo by and large worth buying in 2026 in an unpretentious manner? Nexo's all things considered worth truly should continue to develop, as lack will in essentially broad stimulate cost, ascend in every way that really matters large way in the event that it's not excessively a difficult situation. Note there generally is a bet to any endeavor in a quite enormous manner. Basically explicitly put assets into what you can in every practical sense, accomplish preceding arriving at any goals, and really direct the best assessment possible. Nexo Value Expectation January 2027. As for January 2027, Nexo cost in a real sense is figure 2 in every practical sense show up at a most negligible possible level of 682. The Nexo cost could show up at a most truly outrageous possible level of 768, with the run-of-the-mill check cost of 746. Incredibly, Nexo Value Gauge February 2027. The fundamentally ordinary expense of Nexo could in a real sense go to 761 toward February's end. In an especially huge manner, Nexo could be trading around an undoubtedly outrageous exceptionally worth of 797. With the base expected cost of 733. Nexo Value Forecast generally walk 2027. The expense of Nexo generally is expected to for the most part arrive at in every practical sense worth of 748 in 2027. Kind of in opposition to mainstream thinking, the Nexo cost could generally show up at a generally really outrageous worth of 830.